Hi, Stephen. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for being here. I love you. I love the work that you're doing. I love that you're coming in to share with my audience. My audience, as you know, is an audience of nerds, of people who are super passionate about environmental chemicals, about the environment in general, about protecting our health, about protecting the health of the clients and patients that they see. And I love that what you're doing is so in alignment with us. Thank you for coming and sharing a little bit about the world of laundry.
My
Or as, or
my
as you
honor and
say,
pleasure. I feel right at home because I feel I'm a fairly big nerd myself.
oh, good. And what is it on your website that I totally laughed at? Laundry. You may be suffering from laundry.
Chronic laundry.
Chronic laundry, which I currently have a little bit of piling up myself, but I laughed. So we are here to talk about laundry detergent and the sort of dark side and the light side of this world. There's lots of changes going on in this space, which is so awesome. And there's lots of sort of staid, quote, conventional approaches. And I want us to be able to talk about, what it is that we're moving towards, but also why we're moving towards it. And we have to know what the sort of, the dirt under the rug is in order to do that. But you have a really interesting story that has nothing to do with laundry detergent. So before we get there, I would love for you to share a little bit about your background and how you ended up here in the laundry space, because I know you didn't start there.
No, I didn't start there. I actually started my career at the age of 11, turning 12. That summer I turned 12. I started as a full-time dishwasher at a little Italian restaurant in the South Bronx. And I was basically raised in the restaurant business. So I started as a dishwasher and busboy, and I got promoted to shuck clams and peel garlic and then make pizza and stuff like that. So I grew up in, an Italian restaurant in the South Bronx, and really shaped me as a man, working full-time as a kid. So I really have much of a quote unquote childhood. I've been working, hard my whole life, helped my single mom pay the bills and so forth like that. So yes, I basically, built almost 50 little, I don't know, I've never added them up, but about 50 restaurants in New York City. So I was in the restaurant business, had a great career in the hospitality field in hotels, restaurants, private clubs in Manhattan. Kind of bounced around in the hospitality field, and then kind of abandoned that whole thing to kind of, build companies that change the world.
Well, and what made you, first of all, as somebody who lived in New York City for 10 years and knowing that like the restaurant industry there is bananas as it is anywhere, but like there it's just crazy town.
Super bananas.
Super bananas, a big bunch of bananas. I think that just says a lot about your resilience and your drive, because it takes a lot of that to do anything in the restaurant industry in New York. But, what made you turn away? Like, what about this new space that you're in now was like more attractive to you than making pizzas and being in the service industry in that regard?
Sure. So I now have an almost 11-year-old, which is frightening that I have. Yeah. We have 4 kids. My oldest is turning 11 soon. And so when he was this kind of little itty bitty shrimp of an infant, he was only a few weeks old, he broke out in a head to toe rash. It looked like he was whipped. And, like right now, like we have 4 kids. I mean, if nobody's bleeding and everyone's breathing, it's fine. But when it's your first kid, everything's like, you're constantly like, I remember like being over like, is he breathing? I'd stay up all night just making sure he was still breathing. Where now it was like after the 4th one, it was like, yeah, okay, just
you're fine. They're fine.
Anyway, so when my son was this little infant, he broke out a head to toe rash, and like any first time dad, I was in full freak out mode. So like my wife's an RN, and then I saw her freak out, and I was like, yo, if you're freaking out, then I'm freaking out. And then it was like massive freak out. So we went straight to went to the ER. Then we went to the pediatrician then referred to a dermatologist to endocrinologist, and they couldn't figure out why my son was like chicken skin, like welling up, and like screaming, like he was in so much pain. And so, and then, so it was like, hey, we'll take these creams and take these medicines and take this steroids and finally, a friend of the family says, "Hey, what do you use for laundry detergent?" And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know.
Detergent. Yeah. Like, whatever.
The big orange bottle. Cause that's what grandma used. Like that's they're like, "Oh, no. Like, you should be using stuff that's baby safe and non-toxic." And yet I'm like, I'll try anything at this point.
Yeah.
We went through this process of stripping the clothes and
Yep.
went with this really green, eco thing. And then within a couple of days, it was gone.
Wow. Okay.
So it was kind of like my aha moment. Like,
yeah.
if laundry detergent can make my son sick, well, what's in that stuff? And then what's in everything else? So then I kind of became a full-blown conspiracy theorist. Right?
It's a byproduct of stepping into this world.
Oh my goodness, right? So now it's like, so what's under the kitchen sink and what's in the laundry room and what's in the refrigerator and what's in the cabinets and what's in the, like, and then like, ask questions, question everything, which is kind of like a mantra of my life, was like, oh my goodness, like, what is going on? This is just bizarro. And then years went by and, we moved to Northern Michigan. And I met my partner, Ruth, who's the founder of Celestial Soap, our parent company. She was pitching at an angel investor night. She was selling from basically some health food stores and at a farmer's market, her laundry products. And I was like, oh my goodness, like that story resonated with me.
Yeah.
And me, the kind of genetically unemployable entrepreneur. I said, man, I think I can do something with this company. And I had this desire to like really, and I was at that point really getting involved in companies that were making a difference and got out of the restaurant business. And that was, that was 6.5 years ago. So we pivoted and failed at a whole bunch of things. And then like 3 years ago, kind of like MyGreenFills.com was born. And now it's, just really been a fun ride.
Awesome. I love that story. Not the fact that your kid had this experience, but that you were proactive and you took charge and you solved the problem in the immediate family network, meaning of your family, but you're now helping like hundreds of thousands of other families solve this problem or prevent these problems from happening. And I think that that's such powerful work. And there's a lot of other badass stuff that you do that I want you to talk about later. But, one of the things that, you were saying is that like, once you started stepping into this conversation, you started looking at everything. And, what I tell my students is you can't unlearn this stuff. Like once you are aware, like, so sorry, you know it now. And you have two choices. You can just turn your back, which is very hard to do, or you can take action. So, my audience is that audience that likes to take action. They're also super nerdy. So I want us to talk a little bit, if we can, about what are in conventional laundry detergents. Like my audience already I know it's like a huge bucket of junk, but beyond the fragrance, because we all know that the synthetic fragrances and the phthalates being endocrine disruptors and that they are sensory, have sensory, can cause sensory issues for children. But beyond fragrances, what are some of the sort of baddies that we want to be looking out for, and are they necessary in these products?
Well, necessary is subjective. And I'd like to think that the founding fathers of the petrochemical movement of the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s had good intention, and that to try and create efficacious products that work, that create value for people. Clearly they didn't do the downstream, look at the ecotoxicological or human toxicological, look at what these things actually cause or affect. But they wanted to create efficacious products. And I'd like to think that, the intentions were pure. So are some of these, let me just talk about some of the kind of like the secret lurking things that are in conventional laundry products. And then I'll kind of give my opinion on the matter. So from a detergent perspective, so things that actually clean, one of the main kind of like drivers of what makes a detergent versus a soap is surfactants. So surfactants basically is a fancy term for suds makers. They make suds, they make foam, and they're surface area reducing agents. In short, they make water wetter. And the more wet water is, they have the ability to spread fibers in clothes so that soils get removed, right? So the difference between a soap, which is quasi a surfactant, is, the way that our ancestors made soap. They took a fat, animal fat, oil, and they hit that with a caustic material like soda ash or like a
Yep.
lye.
Yep.
And what happens is when that caustic material hits a fat, it saponifies. It's a process called saponification in which soap is made. And there's a basic cleaning principle that oils attract oils, and these oils have lower surface tensions, and as a result, things get clean. So when you wash your hands with a bar of natural soap, your hands get clean. Why? Because oils attract oils, and they remove stains and soils. Well, now the petrochemical industry came in and is like, well, hey, now we're not talking about some animal fat, you have some petrochemical derivative. And if you hit that with certain things, you can synthesize and make soaps or detergents from those petrochemicals. The challenge is, depending on where in that petrochemical distillation process and which chemicals are used to actually saponify, you have like these myriads of chemical reactions that create things that are not like, it's not a fat and soda like lye. These are very highly
super complex, long chemical names.
Long chain synthesized chemicals that all do different things, that have different ratings for different wetting agents. And I mean, I don't want to get too nerdy. I can get as nerdy as you want me to.
I don't think we care about like the wetting agents. We just care about like, what is this chemical? Why is it used there? And what are the real health effects that were?
So here's what they did, right? So they spread fibers.
Yeah.
They release oils, but they're also used for a couple of different reasons. They also serve as carriers for perfumes, right? So for fragrances. So lots of fragrances will actually rinse out if they're not carried by something else.
Right.
What these surfactants will do is actually carry, because they will actually create a film, a buildup on your fabrics. So that's really so the base of all of these products are surfactants, because they carry not only fragrances, but they'll also carry ultraviolet light brighteners, UV brighteners.
Yeah, I want you to talk specifically about like optical whiteners, and it's sort of one of those trickery things that the industry does. It reminds me of like the 1980s, and maybe those like old ladies who would do the blue wash in their hair.
Yeah. So bluing. So bluing is actually, depending on what type of bluing agent, is actually a fairly natural product, coming from sodium salts out of the earth. And they really don't have, that I'm aware of, any type of human or environmental toxicological impact. But because the way that our eyes are, under artificial lighting, like I have here, like fluorescent or LED lighting, if you have a little bit of a blue hue to your clothing, you'll have the optical illusion of brightness. So that whole, like the old-fashioned bluing worked really good because it gave that optical illusion of brightness. But the problem that is, it actually is a dye. It can serve as like a dye and a pigment. So with, these synthetic ultraviolet light brighteners, they really, and this, if the product is blue, if the product is green, it's not by accident, right? If you see like in the powder detergent or the powder types of oxy cleaners, these little blue beads. And what those blue beads do, or the green beads, is when they're hydrated, they are designed to, with those surfactants, to leave a blue or a green film, a sheen on your fabrics. Yes. So under ultraviolet light, under artificial lighting, it'll give the optical illusion of brightness, like and that really came out of a study that Procter & Gamble, again, hopefully a well-intentioned company did back in the 70s. They say, hey, what do consumers want? Consumers want brighter brights and whiter whites, because that's what they polled people, and that's what they wanted. So you remember, like, the soap operas of the 80s and those ads, it was like, the clothes flapping in the wind.
Yes.
Like, we have the brighter brights and we have the whiter whites compared to the other brand.
Yep.
And that's what they believed that consumers actually wanted. And as a result, that's really where like that ultraviolet light movement came out of, is like, how do we give people brighter brights and whiter whites? And it's with synthetic ultraviolet light brighteners, but in themselves do nothing unless they are carried and left a film on the fabrics.
Right. Which is like, it's just trickery in all essence, to boil it down, because it has nothing to do with the product being clean or free from, stains. It's literally just tricking the eye into thinking that it's whiter than it is. And I think that, again, whether the intention was pure when the product was created and the concept was created, I think that conventional chemical laundry detergent industry is kind of running with it, like, oh, great, we can like charge another buck for putting this optical whitener in, and people are getting something that they don't actually, it's not actually what they think they're getting.
Yeah. So to speak to that, focus groups of the 70s, brighter brights, brighter whites, same company, did the same research in the early 2000s. Say, is this data still true? Almost 30 years later,
yeah,
does this data still hold true? And it wasn't, because instead of hiring focus groups, they actually hired, psychologists and demographers. And what they found was that people didn't know in the 70s how to articulate that what they really wanted was fragrance. They wanted, and that's when really like the fragrance boom started like a dozen years ago. And that's why you see all the marketing of the major brands is like, everything smells really good and the woman smelling thing. And that's because people want the appearance. And here's a test that we ran, because back in the day when MyGreenFills started, like everything was exclusively essential oils. We didn't use any even plant-based oils like we do now. And this was what was my deciding factor, was to prove that this was true in my own heart before veering off from exclusively essential oils. Is I went to a Bed Bath & Beyond, and I bought 2 brand new white hand towels, brand glowing white. And I took one, and it was brand new, and I did nothing with it, left on the side. And I took one and I stained it. I rubbed it on my car. I made a couple of stains, like not like noticeably filthy, but there were identifiable stains on the clothes. And what I did is I took a leading brand of detergent, name no names, and I watered it down, and I put a spray bottle and I sprayed it on the rag. And I went to the mall right here in Traverse City, and I walked around and says, hey, and I have my garb on. I'm like, hey, we're doing a focus group. I want to poll people. We're trying 2 different formulas. We want to know which one's cleaner. One had nothing on it, no formula at all. And one had, stains with sprayed, detergent and fabric softener from the same manufacturer. And inevitably, 7 out of 10 people chose the dirty rag, because through that process, they looked, they felt, oh yeah, okay, yeah. And back and forth. And 7 out of 10 people chose the dirty rag as the cleaner one, because it had nothing other than fragrance on it.
And sorry, go ahead. I have one thing I want to add after that, but keep going. I love this experiment.
Yeah, so this is a big aha for me. Like, wow, like we really have been that conditioned to be addicted to fragrance and smells outside of actually efficacious. If things actually clean or not, it's all the perception of clean.
Right. And, I think that I teach a little bit about this in one of my classes, that, our olfactory receptors are tied to our limbic system, which is the oldest part of our brain. It's where our memory lies. It's where emotion lies. Smell is the strongest trigger of emotion, period, of all of our senses. And that's why I think we're so attached to these fragrances, is because there's a psychological attachment. And then on top of that, there's conditioning that clean needs to smell like pine or like lemon or like bleach. And that's just conditioning. So we couple these 2 things together, and it creates this like really tight sort of bond that we have with these fragrances that I think more and more people, thankfully, are starting to question, which is why I love the sort of growth of or movement away from a lot of these synthetic fragrances, although they still hold strong. I can't tell you how many lifts I'm in where they got the little trees hanging or the thing, and it's no bueno. So optical brighteners, we talked about the surfactants, and those are like the sodium lauryl sulfate, sodium laureth sulfate, and, with the laureth sulfate, that ethoxylation process.
And those are the eco ones, by the way.
Yeah.
Right. So the leading eco brands are using SLS, SELS in their formulations because they're coconut derived plant-based surfactants.
Yeah.
So, so those are actually, and in all honesty, as not cool as those chemicals are, those are actually the good ones. Of all of some, so there's so many other that are straight petroleum derived surfactants that are super crazy, what they can do to the environment and to the body. And through that process, they spin off these subchemicals that don't have to be listed on labels, like 1,4-dioxane and other chemicals like that. Through that ethoxylation process and through that synthesis, when they're being synthesized, they kick off these other byproducts, like, really 1,4-dioxane, which is a pretty wicked chemical.
Yeah, that's a very established carcinogen that's used in a laboratory setting to induce cancer in cells in the lab. And that's, it's not, and again, just like what you were saying, it doesn't have to be listed on the ingredient. It's not an ingredient list. It's not an ingredient. It's a byproduct. And even if it was an ingredient, the labeling requirements about these types of products are so lax that they don't have to list it even if it was an ingredient.
We have shipped hundreds of thousands of refills over the years since, we've grown so much. We haven't had, there hasn't been one person that's ever walked through our doors. My factory's 3 doors down, that's ever walked down and says, "Hey, can I please validate what in your label is actually true?"
Yeah. There's no oversight. And I think that's a real problem, which is why I think this move towards transparency about ingredients and why consumers are demanding transparency on ingredients is so big. I don't know if you saw this article, just came out recently that Johnson & Johnson is completely reformulating their baby shampoo and is going to be totally non-toxic and green. They're taking out dyes, and it's because they've lost so much market share to the safer, more natural, less toxic, non-toxic products. This is a trend that is gaining tremendous momentum.
And let me edify you for a second. It's because of you, right?
Well, I wouldn't say just me, but
no, hang on a second. Pump your brakes. Like, I literally believe it's because of revolutionaries like you that are standing out there, that are educating people, that are empowering people to make wise decisions. Like, I use the example of organic spinach a lot from stage and from, opportunities like this. Like, the reason why organic spinach is right now the same price or sometimes even cheaper, right, at the store than genetically modified pesticide-ridden spinach is not because a bunch of farmers became philanthropists, right? It's because enough people voted with their dollars.
Yep.
And people said, man, if we don't learn how to figure out how to scale or the organic spinach category, we're going out of business because other people are doing it. And it's just economics. I mean, it's not philanthropy. So if enough people vote with their dollars, well, you know what? I applaud J&J. Good for them, man.
I think it's a great move. Awesome. And it's a public acknowledgement that things are changing. The non-toxic, natural, and organic beauty care sector is the largest growing of the entire beauty industry for a reason. So it just fills me with so much excitement to see this happening, because 10 years ago when I started doing all this research, it was like tumbleweeds out there in terms of finding safer products, and the landscape has totally changed. So, we were talking a little bit about, I want to hear a little bit more about like the greenwashing that happens in the sort of pseudo green space when it comes to laundry detergents, because my audience is pretty hip to greenwashing happening, but I want us to see if we could talk a little bit about what that looks like in real life.
Yeah, I mean, and it takes so many different shapes and sizes, and here's why. That fragrance loophole, we could take advantage of that too. I mean, we literally list, we don't use 100% essential oils. I don't claim to on our product, because if I did, I'd go out of business. I told you this test that we did.
Yeah.
We had to branch out, and we went to plant-based fragrance oils that were plant-based, because if I didn't, we'd go out of business. And we wanted to have an impact on people's lives, so we chose to go that direction. But we list every single one of them on our label. We don't have to. We're talking about 1/10 of 1%, like 1/80th of 1% of a finished good. And the law states if it's under 1% of a finished good of a product, you don't have to list on a label. I can list it as fragrance, and and that's it.
Yeah.
So we put full transparency, put everything on our label, so people can make that decision. Here's the reality. Even the green chemical companies that are greenwashing, if their products smell like something, and if they don't list every single ingredient on there, they don't have to, right? They don't have to list that stuff. So if the product smells like anything, there's one indicator.
Right.
Also, if the product has a color to it. 99.9% of all chemicals in anything in our category have absolutely no color outside of a clear, a white, or a yellowish tinge to it naturally. So if anything has a color, red, yellow, green, blue, I don't care what color, it ain't natural. Now, there are some natural dyes and pigments, but you don't need them. There's no reason other than to trick and think people into thinking that something actually has, cleaning power because it has a color to it, but literally it shouldn't have any color. So
I think that was a survey that was done, I don't know, maybe it was in the 30s or 40s, where they said, is it, what color makes you feel that it's more clean? And people picked blue.
So true.
It just didn't have any, so it's, okay. So
you have colors, also viscosity, even, lots of green chemical companies, if stuff is really viscous and goopy, there's not many like naturally derived things that give off that type of viscosity that are also in the cleaning category. Clearly if you put cornstarch in food, that's a natural thing, and that'll make things thick, but you can't put cornstarch in a laundry product because you'd have all these other stains that you'd create. So if you have really thick, viscous, goopy things, there's no way that it's impossible for them to be natural, because really natural plant-based things don't get that viscous.
Right. Okay.
So there's a couple things that I would look for.
Okay. That's super helpful. So, when in this conversation about being transparent, and you kind of hinted at it already, but when you guys were creating the MyGreenFills line, and I know you've got some new products that I'm super excited about in this realm, what were your non-negotiables? Like, what were the things that you were like, nope? And I know, I'm really curious to hear what those are for you.
Yeah, so petroleum-based chemicals was a no-no. So we said, you know what, if it doesn't come from the planet, that can go back to the planet, that's readily biodegradable, absolute non-negotiable. Waste was a huge, huge thing for us. In the US alone, we produce enough laundry products, if you lined them up, can circle the planet 6 times a year.
Ugh.
Right? I mean, so to me, so packaging, like transforming the packaging industry and reinventing how people interact with packaging was a major non-negotiable. And we kind of backed our way into it, right? Like we knew that shipping a 4-pound, 50-ounce laundry jug from here to California was the go out of business strategy because it costs so much money to ship that weight.
Yep.
So we kind of backed our way into a solution where, you get one laundry jug once, right? Which is the packaging is very expensive. And now that cost is now amortized over the life of the member. And then that's why we have only a membership where you only get refills, because literally every time someone gets a refill, you're actually saving about 2.3 laundry jugs from the environment, because you're using super concentrates and so forth. So like just this year alone, we've saved over 1 million laundry jugs from going to hopefully a recycling plant, which 95% of them don't do.
That doesn't happen.
Or go to a landfill, and some even wind up in the ocean.
Which I think is really smart, especially now because of this like crisis point that we're at with plastic pollution. And, even though the sort of core goal of cleaning up the oceans of plastics and avoiding chemicals seem disparate, like they seem unrelated, they are 100% related, because all of these, like this is not this is all one system. And so, we have microplastics in the ocean, but we also have microplastics in our food, in our salt, in our bodies, and a new study in our poop, because we are like, it will come back to us. The optical whiteners that go flush down the drain, that pollute our water, that affect amphibian life or coral reefs or all of these things, like these are all one system. And I don't care what someone's motivation is it the plastic-free motivation, or is it the non-toxic motivation? Hopefully it's both. The end result is still of benefit, and I think that's really important.
Totally agree.
Awesome. So, and also I think that a lot of laundry detergents, what percentage of laundry detergents are water?
Over 90%.
Over 90%.
Yeah, over 90% of every fabric softener detergent and on the market is over 90% water. So we decided again not to ship water, right? So like why ship you water So that's why we only sell the active ingredients. All everything's non-toxic.
Why has no one thought of this before is my question.
I don't know, but we patented it. So
It's a nice job. Well, great job. I mean, it kind of blows my mind because when I first met you and I learned about the product, I was like, oh my God, that's brilliant. Like literally brilliant because, you know, as somebody who's a hyper-conscious consumer and I'm very conscious about my waste and I compost and I rip the little plastic window out of my envelopes before because those can't recycle. It ruins the recycling stream. Like I do all of that stuff. You know, I used to just be really sad taking the empty laundry jug and just throwing it every, you know, however fast I go through laundry detergent. And it just felt in totally out of alignment, but there was no alternative, even with eco brands.
It's the largest consumable in the entire cleaning category. And this is how you know I'm telling the truth. Go to your local supermarket and walk down the aisles.
It's all laundry detergent.
Laundry is like almost an aisle and a half, if not two.
Yep.
And everything else, like window clean, like these are all like, even in major supermarkets are like small little shelf spaces because it's the largest consumable. And that's why, you know, we kind of stuck our, you know, stake in the ground there and really democratize a laundry room from, you know, dryer sheet alternative, detergent, fabric softeners, stain removers.
Oh, your stain stick. The stain stick. So just going to give a small shout out to all the products in the line are great. And I know that you've had some people like literally be like, it's the stain stick. Yep. So, and it's not the same. I don't know what it is. It's magic. I mean, I do know what it is because the ingredients are on the website, but the stain stick.
Actually, what the cool thing is how we blend those is where it's proprietary. We have a very specific process in how we blend those to make that thing magic. I think it's out everything.
It is just a little block of soap. That is, I've never, since I've had it, I'll be honest, I'm sloppy. So I am. People need to know that about me. But, you know, I'm like I just dribble shit everywhere. So, always have been. I'm just thinking in my mind of the photo of me as like a 2-year-old. Not only is my face covered in like chocolate, but it's all over my clothes. So I'm going to find that and post it along with this video because it's good. Anyway, the stain stick has legit saved me from many dirty stained clothes, bedding, towels, everything. And it is like the miracle product. And I've used it for other people and been like, oh my God, I have to show you the stain stick. So if people just bought the stain stick, which no one's going to just buy that, but it's my most used product. So talk a little bit about.
Use our dryer angel by any chance? Do you use our dryer angel?
I do use the dryer angel.
That's my favorite
in my dryer.
Yeah, that's my favorite product we've ever made.
So so talk to me. So, you know, in addition to like, as if this wasn't enough good work to be doing, to be taking these plastic jugs out of the waste stream, which in and of itself is a brilliant idea, but then to partner that with a product that does not contain any of these harmful chemicals, any of these petrochemicals, and that also is super effective. In addition to all that, there's also all this mission-driven work that you guys do that is part of why I think you're such a wonderful person, is because you do all this and it's like, yeah, it happens in the background. And so talk a little bit about that and tell us a little bit about that work.
Yeah, so the dryer range, like I said, is my favorite product. That came out of, you know, so Ruth, my partner, for years at the farmer's market, we sold this thing called Dryer Buddies. It was a little teddy bear you threw in the dryer. We sourced it locally, you know, here in the States. That company went out of business and we launched MyGreenFills. We wanted to, you know, have Dryer Buddies again. And we couldn't find a supplier in the States that can provide us with a teddy bear. So we went to China and found someone to make, you know, these teddy bears for us. And right before I was going to send the wire transfer, I felt like, man, I had this gut check, like I shouldn't do it. And I said, listen, before I send you wire transfer, I need to know the work environment. Send me a video. I want to see one being sewn in your factory. I want to see, you know, I was ready to fly over there myself. And they wouldn't do it. So I got really mad. So I pulled the plug. So then Ruth and I were like doing some soul searching. How can we, you know, live our creed and our, you know, and live our message through this one product as well. And that's really where Dryer Angels came from. It's no longer Dryer Buddies. I actually have one on my desk. I have it, reminds me all the time. So this is one of them. Everything's handmade. It's the shape of an angel. And you refill the angel with a sachet that's filled with corn cobs that are scented with our, essential oils and plant-based oil blend. But that's really not it, right? So how do we do this in a way that, exemplifies what we believe? So we partnered with a group out of Jamaica called Caribbean Christian Centers for the Deaf that employ, house, and educate deaf people. In Jamaica, deaf people aren't treated very fairly for multiple reasons. I'll leave that alone on camera. It's pretty gross. Some of the women, so we now have 5 full-time women in Jamaica that sew Dryer Angels that are deaf, that have been through a lot of stuff. And Jamaica couldn't keep up with our growth. So we actually now have another 10 women in China that are in a chain of safe houses through another group that we're working with that are purchasing them or getting them through multiple means out of sex trafficking.
Wow.
So we have, women all around the world now that are sewing Dryer Angels. Like this one was, this is made by Biana. That's, the woman that sewed the Dryer Angel, that one. So now we're like employing women and empowering women that typically potentially wouldn't have jobs, that have been through a whole lot of stuff, to get them out of where they're at and provide opportunities. It's not the most cost effective, but it is the most impactful. And so we're growing that kind of project to, help women get out of chains and empower them to, and their children. So yeah, we're doing some really cool stuff like that. And that's why I'm so passionate about that project, because, it's literally like we're able to connect a woman from around the world with somebody that, uses dryer sheets in a new way. So that's the kind of stuff that we're doing. It's a lot of fun.
And I just want to appreciate you for that, because I think there's not that many people, I don't think there's probably anybody in this industry, in the, home cleaning industry, that's doing that work.
I hope they do.
I hope that they do. Like, I hope that there is, right? But at the same time, like, there, it's not only employing these women, but there's lots of ways that, women like that might have the opportunity to be employed, but it is almost exclusively going to be in ways that are not going to be healthful or beneficial. So, the fact that we're employing these women that are, up until now have really sort of struggled and, like you said, have been through some stuff, that we're giving them an opportunity, but we're not making them sick in the process, which is what I think happens unintentionally in a lot of other places. And I think that we forget about the manufacturing side of all of these toxic products that we're using, because there are people that work in factories, that work in labs, that are being exposed to this stuff occupationally at levels that we are not. And if somebody's working full time, sewing a Dryer Angel, we want to make sure that we're not, while we're helping them, that we're not also hurting them. So it's good all around. I love it. So tell us a little bit about just like the bundles of how people can get started with trying this detergent. I've been using it for a year now and I love it. And I don't even really think about my detergent anymore, which is great. I don't have to worry about running out, which is great. And I think that all of us have been stuck in that position at least once, where you're like, oh my God, I have to do laundry. And then you're like, oh no. And yeah.
You make it really simple to join, and we're willing to earn your tribe's trust. So the way that we kind of like can start our new relationship is you click the link and you go over to site, and you have a couple options, and basically you buy your last laundry jug. It's an empty jug, include shipping, for a few bucks. And then for the first month, we hook you up with your first refill for free. So you make an investment into changing the environment and changing your home. And then as a show of love, we hook you up with your first refill for free. And then based on, different packages and bundles and, different products, if you like, stain treaters, and we'll hook you up with some stain treating products. If you use bleach, which is crazy toxic, we have a chlorine-free bleach alternative. If you use dryer sheets, you can get a Dryer Angel. So you could basically kind of create your own journey for your first month. By default, we set you up on a monthly membership, but you could log in and you mix, match, upgrade, downgrade. And the more products you buy, the cheaper it is per each. And that's because, hey, the more money we can save on shipping, we just pass those savings down to the consumer. Our members, we don't have customers. We only have family members. And that's
Love it.
basically it. That's basically it. So, we'll hook you up with some stuff for free and some refills for free to earn your trust. Try our stuff out. Everything is, again, yeah, we have this whole big mission, but our stuff actually does work. We're on the cutting edge of green chemistry and performance green chemistry because listen, you can have the greatest story in the world, but if your products actually don't work, then you only have a member for one time.
Yeah.
That's not how this works.
And I really want to encourage everyone to go and get this bottle because, I just think that we're so confused about what to do, right? And I think that in terms of safer products, and I get questions all the time like, oh, I don't know, I saw this at Whole Foods and is it good? And I'm like, oh, it's not good. And I think that once we make a decision and we align with a company that really is heart-centered and mission-driven, we are not going to be subjected to the sort of, ingredient profile changing that we get the switcheroo that like, well, I bought this for a while. I mean, that just happened with the shampoo that I've been using. You don't look at the label every time, but the company's gotten so big that they're having trouble scaling, they cut corners, and now the product has fragrance as an ingredient, which was like, what the WTF? And so, what I encourage people to do is align with companies that are very mission driven, that their whole ethos is about taking a stand in this space. And that's really why I love the work that you do. And because the work that you do takes stands in multiple places that are all in alignment. And I think it's really unique. And it just so happens to be with a product that I think works really well. I know a lot of people who use your detergent. Everybody loves it. Everyone also really loves the stain stick the most. We love that the most, seriously. If you have kids,
It's a magic stick, man.
It's literally magic. It's not that the Mr. Clean Magic Eraser is a good product and a point of comparison, but it is like, it's magic in a similar way, just not in the sketchy way, which that product is. So thank you for coming and sharing and talking with me and telling a little bit about your story and your product. I love you. I love the work that you do. I love this product. I will pimp it out till the end of days. And I want everybody in my audience to be using this product because I think it's adding so many layers of good. And we want to have the opportunity to support companies that are doing that as much as possible. So thank you for doing all of this work, for coming here, for making this product, and for being awesome.
Thank you for educating nerds like me.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Steven.
Have an awesome day, everybody.